Okay, picture this, a fish that walks on land. I know, it sounds completely nuts, right? Like something out of a sci-fi movie. It just goes against everything we think we know about biology. I mean, fish belong in water, period. But what happens when that fundamental rule gets broken?
So really think about it. What happens when you take a fish out of water? You know the image, it's not a pretty one. And yeah, for pretty much every fish out there, like 99% of them, the story has a really grim ending. I mean, almost instantly, their gills just stop working. They can't pull oxygen from the air, so they start to suffocate. Their skin gets all dry and cracked. And here's something you might not think about. Without water holding them up, gravity is brutal. Their own weight can literally crush their insides. For almost every fish, that's it. Game over. But, and this is a huge but, what if I told you that for a handful of truly incredible fish, flopping onto land isn't a mistake? It's not the end. In fact, it's the beginning. It's an actual survival strategy. For them, the land isn't a death trap. It's just the next place to explore.
I know it sounds totally impossible, but all over the world, evolution's been playing the long game, tinkering away, and it's given a few special species the tools to do the unthinkable, to actually live and even thrive on dry land.
Now, before we get into how they do it, we really need to grasp just how insane the challenges are. The second a fish leaves the water, it's like an astronaut stepping onto Mars without a suit. It's a totally foreign and incredibly dangerous world for them. And here's the thing, it's not just one problem they have to solve. It's everything, all at once. Their gills, which are amazing underwater, are suddenly useless lumps of tissue. They start dehydrating immediately. Gravity, like we talked about, is just this crushing force. Even their eyes don't work right in the air. It's basically a complete biological meltdown. So how in the world do they pull it off? Okay, this is where it gets really cool. Think of it like this. Nature has given these fish a super specialized survival toolkit with some of the most clever and, frankly, bizarre gadgets you can imagine to solve every single one of those problems. All right, problem number one, the big one. Breathing. If you can't breathe, none of the other stuff matters, right? So how does a fish, a creature designed to get oxygen from water, suddenly start breathing air? Well, it turns out there's not just one answer. Evolution came up with a few different solutions, which is just amazing. Some, like the African lungfish, took the most obvious path. They literally evolved lungs. Yep, lungs. Others, like the climbing perch, had this crazy thing called a labyrinth organ. It's like a maze inside their head that pulls oxygen out of the air they gulp. And then you have the mudskippers, who can just breathe through their moist skin. 3 totally different approaches, all leading to the same incredible ability. Okay, so breathing air for a little while is impressive enough, but let's crank up the difficulty. What if your home, your pond, completely dries up, not for a few hours or a few days, but for years? Yeah, to survive that, you need a legit superpower. And for the lungfish, that superpower has a name, estivation. You can think of it like hibernation for a bear, but instead of sleeping through the cold, it's for surviving insane heat and drought. The fish basically puts itself into suspended animation, slowing its body down to almost nothing. Check this out. As the water disappears and the ground turns to cracked mud, the lungfish digs itself down deep. Then it covers itself in a mucus cocoon that gets hard, leaving just one little straw-like tube to the surface for air. And then it just waits. Its whole body just shuts down, and it can stay like that for years, waiting for the rain. I mean, that is just an unbelievable survival trick. And then you've got the mudskipper. This guy doesn't hide from the land, it lives there. Its front fins are basically little legs that it uses to walk and hop around. Its eyes are on top of its head like periscopes, so it can see everything. And it's always covered in a layer of slime to keep from drying out. This is a fish that's been totally kitted out for a life on land. Now, all these cool tricks and adaptations, they're not just fun facts. They're actually way more important than that. They're like living fossils, giving us a peek into one of the most critical moments in the entire history of life on our planet. Yeah, this quote here really nails it. These modern amphibious fish are like a time machine. When we look at them, we're seeing clues about how our own distant ancestors, the very first animals with backbones, managed to crawl out of the sea and conquer the land. And if you look at the big picture, the evolutionary timeline, you can see the whole story unfold. We're talking hundreds of millions of years ago. You had these lobe-finned fish that started developing fins that looked a bit like limbs. Then you get creatures like the famous Tiktaalik, using those features to navigate the shallows. Fast forward to today, and these amphibious fish are dealing with the exact same kinds of problems. Ponds drying up, not enough oxygen in the water. And they're solving them in remarkably similar ways. It's like we're watching a rerun of one of the most important chapters in our own history.
So what does this all mean? Well, these creatures basically blow up our nice, neat little boxes for categorizing life. They show us that when it comes to evolution, it's all about adapting. It's about blurring the lines we thought were set in stone. So, what's the big takeaway here? These fish aren't just weird oddities. They're critical links between two different worlds. You know, a mudskipper eats an insect on the mud, then a bird eats the mudskipper. Boom! You've just connected the land and water food webs. They teach us that survival is all about adaptation, not about limitations. It's not about staying in your lane. It's about being able to change lanes when you have to.
Which brings us to one last kind of mind-bending question. If you've got a fish that can walk, that can breathe air, that can even climb trees, what does it even mean to be a fish anymore? When an animal shatters every definition we have for it, it makes you wonder, maybe all those firm lines we try to draw in nature are a lot fuzzier than we ever thought.